this section, Section 2C, we will discuss how to describe your target population and the roles and responsibilities of staff as they relate to your project activities. In this section, you are describing the people who will benefit from your project. Your target population is the group of individuals you are designing your project for and for whom you are trying to create positive change. You will want to describe in as much detail who your primary population of interest is. You can describe your target population by demographic characteristics, identified needs, or a particular geographic area you're focusing on. The target population of a peer mentoring program, for example, is 10 Latinx families with a youth 16 or older who is a client of XYZ Regional Center and whose primary language is Spanish. You will also need to provide data to show why you chose this population and relate it to your project goal. You can also describe any secondary target populations you are including because they influence the primary target population. This can be anyone from family members, employers, or specific organizations. You need to show how your project or activity is the best practice to fit the needs and context of your target population, including the available community resources, the cultural values, and language of your target population. In particular, the State Council wants to know if your target population benefits any individuals from underserved communities or those living in federally defined poverty areas. The State Council defines underserved populations as those that have traditionally been identified as minority populations. For example, Latinx, American Indian, African American, and so on. Underserved populations also include those whose first language is not necessarily English or who may be monolingual in a non-English language. Additionally, underserved populations may include those in heavily rural areas, high poverty areas, as well as areas that contain a disproportionate number of elders or seniors. For this proposal, a poverty area is defined as a county where 20% or more of the population live below the poverty level. You can find out the poverty level for your county by looking it up in Exhibit A. Exhibit A is the California Poverty Areas by County. You should address all specific categories listed in the RFP, even if your target population does not include people who are living in poverty. It is important to show that you paid attention to these items, even if you are simply writing a statement that your target population does not include anyone with that specific characteristic. The project narrative also requires that you provide a brief description of the role of project staff in carrying out project activities and deliverables. The deliverables are the products, interventions, or outcomes that you promise to complete by the end of your project. That means a deliverable can be something as big as carrying out an activity that is central to the objective of your project, or it can be a more narrow role, like report writing. You will list the key project staff by providing their title, a description of the qualifications needed for that position, and describe the activities they will be responsible for carrying out in the project. It is important to remember that evaluation is a project activity, and you should put some thought into who will be responsible for evaluation activities, including designing surveys, analyzing findings, and possibly report writing. Let's look at the description for the training specialist role from the application of Get Safe. They wrote that the training specialist requires at least bachelor level or equivalent experience of working with persons with IDD for more than 5 years, as well as experience in group teaching, and is responsible for conducting all levels of training, ensuring that curricula contents are covered, provide feedback for ongoing development and improvement, conduct pre and post and program satisfaction survey, travel to designated training locations, and adhere to all policies and established procedures. Note how the description describes the level of education, experience, and specific responsibilities that the training specialist will have in their project. The project staff is also related to the outcome measures and evaluation module, which is next if you are going through the modules in order. As part of your application, the State Council requires an organizational chart that includes all key personnel working on the project. Make sure that you list and describe all key staff in this section. You will also need to make sure that the level of work assigned each position matches with what you list in the budget section. Make sure your budget is realistic, that what you are planning to do can be done with how much you can allot for in your budget. Your proposal will be looked at in terms of how well thought out your activities are, and that you demonstrate that you can do this with the resources and budget you will have. In this module, we have covered 4 areas that you are required to address when completing your project narrative. For guidance on completing the questions pertaining to outcome measures and evaluation, go to the next module, Module 3. Thank you for taking time out to learn more about how to write your project narrative. Be sure to check out the other modules that may be helpful as you work on your proposal.